Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. Welcome to the Game Day Podcast, Round 7. Tim Moodie is in the house. How's your team going and what's the biggest issue facing your side this week?
Team's travelling okay. I'm in a 5K sort of mark overall. I'm really focused on head-to-head as well, so I'm trying to balance all that up, save a bit of trades and make sure I've got some trades for the finals. But my biggest issue this week, Adam Dewey, I held on to him. I wanted to... What's going on?
What's going on? We've got echo going around everywhere.
Yeah, we've got someone talking in the background. It's a bit difficult. That's fine. I'll continue. Adam Dewey, yeah, look, I wanted to hold him past the buys. Obviously, that's forced my hand now. The other issue I've got is I've got $0 in the bank.
Yeah.
So I need a downgrade, and I'm really scrambling. I'm looking at players that aren't even named yet that could be possible next up for Panthers or next up for the Doggies, just because I've got gut feelings about them. But I'm actually thinking I'm getting enough, which is a bit out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the popular Jack Howarth guy, just because of the dual flexibility, I think it might come in handy if I'm going to chuck in someone that might not help me out too much.
It's an interesting call because that's the biggest issue facing my team at the moment. I need to free up money for Nico Hynes. And the cheapies aren't particularly good this week. There are some borderline guys like Jaime Sele who I don't mind, but he's not at proper cheapie price. So I could either nuff with someone like Howarth, or Savs on the team's podcast was saying that he thinks Hayes Dunster, it's his spot to lose in that team. So I'm considering him, even though he's played one game and scored 7 points or whatever it was. So we're really scraping the barrel for cheapies this week. I think it's too early to go Croker. I think I'm going to have to go Dunster or go with the nuff Howarth.
Yeah, so I was looking at Hayes Dunster as well. Now, I can't afford Hayes Dunster.
Right.
He's 230k, so I'm looking at a bottom dollar 200k guy. So they're very few and far between this week.
I mean, I've had a good look too, and Braden Williame's due back from injury next week, so he could be an option at around 230. But I don't think he comes straight back into that team, given how well the Warriors are going. We'll get to a bunch of them later on. We will have the Cheapie of the Week segment, but it's definitely tough for Cheapies this week. Plenty of questions are about to drop. Let's pimp your teams. Send through your questions on Facebook or YouTube. We're monitoring both of them. I'm going to go to YouTube right now. David is asking, should he play Moale or Stefano Utoikamanu?
Stefano's got the bye this week.
Yeah.
So
so exactly.
Yeah, so David Moale is probably going to be your forced option there. Maybe.
Oh, so he's asking because he could do a free loop if he did that.
Yeah, I mean, you can still keep your Utoikamanu on the right. When's the Bunnies game? It's
they're the first
early
game.
in the round. Yeah. So you're basically telling yourself that you're going to be looping or taking an AE if your loop's no good. So, look, Davey Moale is probably not going to score that much anyway. It's probably only going to be like 20 to 30. So if you want to take that risk and give yourself that opportunity, you're probably going to cop an AE regardless. Look, the good thing you could do in his situation is you could VC, where most people are going to captain Cleary. He could VC him, and if it doesn't work out, and maybe he gets an injury or something like that, which God forbid, because we all love him, then he has a little bit of an advantage to captain someone else later in the round and maybe get around that. That's the only positive I could look at with his situation.
That's a good call, and send through your zingers as well, guys. That's your sledges. We always get plenty come through. Harrison saying the only stat you need in SuperCoach I don't understand what that means. There was one saying that Timmy is bringing the best shaped moustache to the news desk since Sav was on Tuesday.
Since Sav was on, yeah, right.
His moustache is looking pretty good too.
Thank you, mate.
We've got Marnie, Dewey and Warbrick to Sonny, Luke, Dillbags and Bird. Interesting.
Yeah, Bird's actually been flying a bit under the radar, I think. He's been going pretty well.
He's on my radar for round 13, that buy, but I'll be buying him sort of, 11, 12 or round 13. I don't think I'd be moving just yet. I kind of like Lomax as well from the Dragons, but they're more towards round 13. I don't think I'd be jumping on now.
I like the Sony Luke option. I've started with him in my side. I think he's getting enough minutes now, and he's at cheap enough price to just plug in there and let him grow. He'll grow quite. I think he'll get to at least 400k. Hopefully not before people want to sell him or whatever. But I mean, if you do have Harry Grant there, we're going to be forced to play Sony Luke in 2 weeks, I think it is, when Munster and the Storm have the... Munster and the Storm and Harry Grant have the bye. So, yeah, that's something to look at. But I'll be happy to run him Sonny Luke that week.
Yeah, I'm still running. I'm buying Sonny Luke this week. I think he is the cheapie of the week, and the stats back that up. He's the second most purchased player this round. Yeah. So he's locked in, but then the cheapies underneath that are very tough to pick.
That's right.
And it's a tough position, Sonny Luke. You might have two good hookers. You might not want to sell someone there. So it's a tough position to be buying cheapies in. Marnie down to Luke and Dewey down to Schuster this week. What do you reckon about Schuster? Because he's been named in jersey 22 out of the 17. They play relatively early on the Friday night. But
you're probably not going to want to play Schuster in your 17, I'm assuming. It's more to free up the cash and future cash generation. Surely, if it's not this week he comes back, he's coming back soon enough. I started with him just because I didn't want to waste the trade of bringing him in later. I just thought I could just do that. Obviously, it slows my cash generation not having someone else like a Bryce Cartwright who went off and killed at the start of the year. So that hurt. But, yeah, I'm all around bringing him in, even if he doesn't get named to play, because he will eventually.
Steve Carter says Sonny plays the Tigers in round 9 when Grant is on the bye. So that could be a good attacking round for him. And Robert Fay is saying Tim is one slick-looking rooster.
Thank you very much. I'm a slick panther. Don't call me a rooster. I appreciate the compliment.
All right, that's it for questions for now, but send them through. We'll get to a bunch of them later. Let's do burning issues. New stings. Yeah, good. I haven't even viewed those yet.
I was funking out a little today.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Dolphins, the Rabbitohs is tonight's game. Late mail at the Dolphins. Ray Stone is starting at prop, interestingly, with Herman Sesa to the bench. I presume he actually ends up playing lock. Thoughts on the Dolphins? I mean, Jermaine Asako has scored the most Supercoach points of any player this year. No one would have predicted that.
Good on him, because I mean, he copped a bit of a rough time when he was at the Bronx. People sort of, who had him in their side were sort of, oh, come on, man. And it wasn't ideal, and even last year not getting any time really for the Titans. So look, he's really taken his opportunity. He's, as you said, the best Supercoacher in the game at the moment. He's made 269k. He's got a minus BE. There is that round 13 coverage as well. If you had him, I'd be holding him. Would I be bringing him in at that price? Probably not, just because I think you're already paying for what he's already done, not what he's about to produce.
Exactly. It's 650k, and he is quite popular this week. He's about the 9th most purchased player. Yeah. There's no way I've been going near him at 650k. You're at the sort of level where you can get guys like Marzu and Lockie Miller, etc. I'd be going those guys ahead. Yeah. Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow is also popular this week, having been one of the most sold players the week before. He killed it on the weekend, got a ton. He's in seriously good form, and people are actually buying him, which I don't understand. If you're on him, hold. Yeah. But again, he's at 550k. I wouldn't be buying him.
Yeah, well, we got recently sold him last week. He's averaging 72. He's made a fair bit of cash too. There's a BE of 9, probably the round 13 coverage as well. But yeah, look, his base ain't there. He's got to be scoring those tries. Which he's been doing a good job of, but at the price he's now, I'd be looking at someone else that's got a bit more pedigree, but rate what he's doing.
Yeah, definite hold, but I wouldn't be buying him. I don't understand why he's the 10th most purchased player. One guy who is the 7th most purchased player, Tom Gilbert, coming off a ton. Work rate's been very good this year. Again, he's getting up in price. I think it's 550 odd K.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be going there, but if you do own him, you'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, he's only averaging 66. Last week's 100 was quite nice. Yeah. However, like the thing that is kind of a little bit sexy about it is he's got the dual second row, front row. Yep. So that can come in handy, especially if you've got someone like a Tarpany or you plan to get a Tarpany, and you can swap them around at different times and stuff. Well, I think that can be handy when you need to, if one's injured or there's a bye or whatever like that. At the price he's at now, though, I think it's a bit much, and I think more often than not you'll be underwhelmed because you've seen that 100. I don't think they're going to be too consistent on those big ones.
People are straight on the chat after you mentioned the word sexy. Speaking of sexy,
Sexy.
look at that Mo and mullet combination.
Oh, I thought it was going to be about sexting.
No. I think we'll give that a zinger. That's pretty good. If you do get a zinger, this pops up on the screen. There you go. What a great prize. Moving on to the Rabbitohs. Late mail is that Isaac Thompson is out. The winger, he's succumbed to that ankle injury that he copped in that controversial hip drop. Was it a hip drop? Wasn't it a hip drop? Who knows? In any case, it's injured Isaac Thompson. He's out this week, but they do have Jai Arrow and Alex Johnston confirmed to return.
Yep.
Supercoach-wise, Campbell Graham has scored the second most points of any player.
Yep.
So in this game, you've got the guy with the most points, Jermaine Asako, coming up against the guy with the second most points in Campbell Graham. Look, he's expensive. I wouldn't be thinking of getting on, but I hope he has a bit of a lean trot and then he's cheap for round 13 because he could be a real purchase for round 13.
Showing real good signs in attack.
Yeah, but if he keeps playing well, he might even make the Origin side.
Yeah, there's a lot of whisper about that.
Yeah,
so
but I mean,
there's a few other contenders.
he would need like Turbo and Latrell to go down to play Origin.
Some
but
people
still,
are whispering he might be, an option for the wing as well.
Yeah,
I guess you've
that
also
could work.
Tyler's probably locked his spot in. However, you've got Tupu still there. There's
Adokar
Suwali
could
potentially
still be back by then as well.
Yeah, he'll probably get maybe a game before then, hopefully. So you see what happens with Campbell Graham. I think that he's always had the base there, and he's been somewhat of a relevant Supercoach player that we try to bring in for the buyers. But just because they're going a lot more to the right now, the Bunnies, it's making him more of an option. But I think he's at 700 and something K, which is hectic.
Expensive, yeah. I'm hoping he comes down to a decent price for those buys. Cody Walker is really popular this week. Started a bit slowly, but he's been scoring tries for fun. He's one of the better try-scoring 5'8" in the competition. Has hit form recently, and with Dewey up for sale, Cody Walker is the most popular replacement as it currently stands.
Yeah, this one hurts because I was very, very close to doing Dewey to Cody Walker last week. But as I mentioned, I had $0 in the bank last week. Still have $0 in the bank this week after making no trades. And it wasn't a straight swap, but I didn't want to use a second trade to have to fund that. He's gone up 90K now. Look, the thing I do like with Alex Johnson back, I think that just sort of ices those left-hand side tries potentially more as well. So that is good for him. However, last week was a bit inflated. The Doggies were down to 12 men for a bit there. They also lost the Fox, and they were just peppering that right side. So it was a really big one. Not saying he's not going to be able to create that sort of score going down the future, but it'll be a bit harder most weeks, I think, than that. So it's a tough one for people who do have the Dewey. Like, do you want Cody Walker? Do you want to pay up for Munster? Are you going to go for Dylan Brown, who's sort of just been pottering along, but due, I think. Latrell Mitchell's another guy from the Rabbitohs. They had such a tough start to the year, but he really came to life over the weekend with 3 tries. They were all down the right-hand side, all on Adokar's wing after the Adokar injury. So, look, I don't think he's going to repeat that regularly, and we know that consistency is a big issue for Latrell. But if you got on before that matchup last week, then you're laughing. Yeah, if I could have one of them or over one or the other, I'd over Cody or Latrell. I think I prefer Latrell. I think he can turn it on more often when he wants to. I had him in the back end of last year and he was red hot. That was after coming back from the States. And I still like him now. I think once he's cracked that whip, I think the whip's going to keep cracking. So it's good for owners. It's hard for a lot of people to get him because they're sort of locked into the fullbacks they currently have for at least another round or two.
Questions coming through. This is Matt Cameron. He's saying, looking at trading out Hopgood and Kepi for Jacob Host and either Tapane or Haas. What are your thoughts? So, first of all, I think Hopgood is a sell. Second of all, is Jacob Host a decent cheapie? Borderline cheapie, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, you're probably doing that to a little bit to downgrade as well. Yeah. If you can get Tapane or Haas in your side, I really do like that. I'd probably go Tarpany just with the buy coverage, the fact that he's scoring 60s. He hasn't really had much attack yet. Payne Haas is, really, really playing well. He's scoring well as also. But I just think that Tarpany's on the rise and he's ready to go.
Tarpany's on
just
the rise.
Just had a baby.
That could fire him up. And round 13, he'll be an absolute essential, so he may as well move now. Question coming through, Turbo to Latrell. Is that worth a trade? It's a very popular trade this week.
You see the trust you get.
I don't see it, to be honest, because Turbo is one of the greats at
Elite.
SuperCoach.
Yeah.
He's had one bad week when he was playing injured. He's fine again. The back's fine. He's going to play again. Tough matchup against the Storm. But still, I don't see...
I'd like to hear it from his mouth and look him straight in the eyes and not hear it from anyone else that says that he's fine. But
he was... I didn't see him say it, but he was quoted saying...
No, I want him looking in my eyes, not through the television. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen because I don't get down to the Northern Beaches very often. However, look, if I could have one fully fit, turbos all over everything, and he goes nuts. He's really trying to adjust to his new running style, I think. The back thing last week was really awkward. I didn't know what was going on with him at the time. And look, it's one of those ones where you've got to trust your gut. I'm not overly confident in him coming out and whipping it up this week. He is playing the Storm.
Tough matchup.
The Storm are able to keep the Roosters to quite a low score as well. So, look, if you just have that gut feeling that it's time to move on, trust yourself. But for me, I've got Turbo and I'll be holding. It gets a bit worse.
I'm holding him. And the thing is, Latrell has a pretty tough matchup against the Dolphins, who haven't been leaking too many points. It's at Suncorp Stadium as well, so it's a home game for the Dolphins. Look, it's a tricky matchup, that one. We'll take a couple of questions. Do you think Preston is a keeper to the end?
Very hard to assess this early. He's pretty consistent. I do like him. He's playing big minutes, obviously. Last week was unfortunate with him getting sent off with that hip drop. And there was a score of 27 or something, which we're not going to probably see again, I don't think. So I'm holding him. I'm a pretty staunch holder of players. I built a very strong relationship with a lot of my players. We've got a good culture at the Villy Army. Hopgood, you mentioned earlier, I'm still holding on to him too. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Hopgood's gone for me as of last week, and Preston, he's still got that low BE, so he gets 1, maybe 2 more weeks, and then I'll assess from there. But he could easily get cashed in for a cheapie, or it's going to be a quick upgrade to someone like Tapane, who's got that dual position.
Tapane, you can put him in the second row for a bit, move him up to front row later in the year. If you don't have Cam Murray or Fafita, I think they're both 2 primos that you could go with. I'd probably lean for Feeder at the moment, though. Yeah,
and the thing with Tapane is he's getting consistent scores. His low score is 57, and his high score is 67. So he's within that 10-point range every game without any attacking stats. And we know that he can get those attacking stats.
I had to discard him at the start of the year. I noticed that the mullet had gone. And I thought, not a big fan of that. And obviously Tino I started with, the mullet's just almost touching the floor. So
yes, good call there. Friday night footy, brought to you by KFC. Sharkies v the Roosters. Pretty big clash, this one, between 2 heavyweights of the competition. It's all about Nico Hynes, really, isn't it? I think he's a must-have. Do you think he's a must-have?
Yeah, I think he is a must-have for sure. I think that some people are struggling to sort of make it work just because of the balance and dynamic of their side and not being able to find that appropriate downgrade this week. There are people that are looking to just wait 1 more week, take the pay. He's going to go up, obviously. He's got a 0 BE.
He's predicted to go up by 87k.
Yeah,
so
which is,
I don't see
if you find it
that.
hard to get him now, it's going to be harder.
I think if you get him, you get on this week, and I think he is a must-have, and you should move heaven and earth. I'm buying Hayes Dunster to get him into my team, or nothing out to someone like Jack Howarth.
Yeah,
so
I'd prefer to go Hayes Dunster if I could afford that, but I'd have to boost to get Hayes Dunster, which sounds ridiculous, but having $0 in the bank and Dewey and needing to go up to one of the other guys about 100 and something K more, I'm going to downgrade Alamotti. Just because I want to hold on to Warbrick and I could sell Warbrick, but Pereira's got that low BE for at least another game. However, if I'd noticed that one of them get dropped,
Pereira. So there is a bit of chat that he could get dropped for Jojo Fafita.
Yeah.
So look, we will see what happens there. And they play. When do they play?
It's pretty late in the round, the 3rd last game, so that's a bit awkward.
Yeah, so we won't know.
Alamotti, however, plays the last game, so but the bloke I'd be looking to bring in alternative would be Jack Howarth, who plays quite early in the month. I think I'm just going to have to make that awkward decision. Yeah,
I'm actually selling Pereira this week, even with that quite low BE.
Yeah.
He needs tries. I mean, his BE is 5.
I'd be
he scored basically that in round 1, so I'm happy just to cash him in, and he's worth a fair bit more than Warbrick, so I can make a bit more money off the trade, and then that gets
if I was to sell Pereira, I wouldn't have to nuff out. I could get a Dunster or a Croker or something like that, but my gut's just telling me to hold on a little bit longer. Yeah. I don't know why.
He had 2 balls basically dropped over the line, who put his foot out on one, so 2 tries that he was so close to getting over the weekend. which could have changed things a fair bit. Teddy is back for the Roosters as well. So is he a guy that you're eyeing? He's dropped by about
definitely
160. He's dropped by a lot, so he'll be really cheap in the next couple of weeks.
So I'm going to sort of assess Turbo and Walsh, who I have there. If Turbo is looking like he's still a bit awkward and this week or even possibly the next week, that's when I might move him onto Teddy. But I'm more likely going to sell Walsh, I think, which is going to be hard for me to do because he's averaging 80s. He's just doing it consistently and he's looking really good. But the draw has been quite good for the Broncos. It is getting harder, and I think that I'd rather go with the guy that I know I can trust in Teddy. Whereas, we all mentioned quite a fair bit that Walsh had that 0 at half-time about 3-4 weeks ago, which is a bit nerve-wracking for me.
The base is not there for me. I see Walsh not quite as a full-on keeper in that position.
Once the draw gets tougher, it might be harder for him to score those
He's got,
points.
is it one more easy game?
Yeah, one more easy game.
Yeah, so the Titans this weekend should go well, and then we'll see what happens from there. Seagulls v the Storm is the other clash. Tommy Turbo has declared himself a certain starter, so we're both saying hold on him. Josh Schuster, this is the try that he got in junk time. That really saved his score. Would have scored in the I would have been a score of about 10 otherwise.
Jeez,
but he has confirmed that he will play. Josh Schuster's still up in the air, so we'll wait and see if he comes in. Garrick is confirmed out. Let's chat about him because he's a popular sell. I wouldn't be selling him. I think he could end up as the best centre winger in Supercoach at the end of the season. So I don't want to sell him, and he covers around 13.
Yeah, I wish he played this week. So if he did play this week, it might have been a lower score against the Storm. It might have been more achievable for me to be able to purchase him in a week or two when the games are getting... He's got some easy games coming up. So because he's not playing this round, I'm going to have to make the decision on do I want to pay up now. He's going to have the high B. I probably will just rush him into my side once he's back.
Yeah, and so he's with that score in his rolling average, he's going to drop really nicely before the buys. But as you say, you want to get on probably next week because it's Tigers.
Points than money. You've got to balance it out, but I'm more of a points-hungry guy than a money-hungry guy, especially coming from the Riff, I don't know.
We were testing your maths before the show and it wasn't going too well. He's got the Tigers and Titans in the next two games, so you'll want him for those clashes. Warbrick is a popular sell. Even with the BE of 48, I'm going to hold. I'm not quite sure why, because he's a winger at the Storm. That's what it comes down to, really.
This week, he's running at a fill-in guy who's debuting, Raymond Tuimal Vega.
Yeah.
Hope I didn't make too much of a meal of that surname, Raymond. But I think with him going at that fella, I've heard he's a little bit slower, just from a few people. So I think that there's opportunity for Warbrick to get that big score that he had a couple of weeks ago and then keep his cash generation moving a little bit more. I wish I could play him this week, but my bench just tells me he's the fifth option for me and I can't. But I'm predicting him for a double this week.
Let's chat about Cameron Munster at fullback this week. Do you think that's better for him? Certainly good for his running game and his attacking base stats. Won't be making many tackles.
Yeah, at fullback he can run around like a headless chalk and do monster things. And I mean, he can do that anyway at 5'8", but I just think he's going to have a free pass this week. I'm scared this week, particularly because he's a good VC option against Manly, who are leaking points. And I don't have that good VC option in my side, so I'm probably just going to do a VC that won't work out and then end up captaining Cleary. But other people who do have him or a Latrell, they've got options for the two cracks there to have a look at a good VC option.
I think we've got some...
The price is awkward for me, though. Breaking news.
We've got some breaking news coming through, so let's go to late mail. I feel like we're in Ibiza with that music pumping. Josh Schuster is confirmed out again.
Yeah, it wasn't too much of a surprise. I heard there was some whispers. The Guru had mentioned that he'd heard that it wasn't a cork, that there's something else potentially. So, yeah, that's a bit awkward. But, yeah, for people that still are looking for the downgrade, he's going to be coming back sooner or later. It can't be too bad of a thing, I'm imagining, unless he's walking around on crutches.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be buying him this week, to be honest. But then
I wonder if it's something else, not injury-wise. I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
Who knows? But it's definitely a strain, not a cork.
Okay.
Yeah, start, people were thinking it was cork, but it's a strain. So they can be tricky. He had a calf strain earlier in the year as well, so hopefully it's not a thing that's going to keep repeating itself during the season. Repeating the late mail from tonight's game is that Alex Johnston will definitely play, and so will Jai Arrett, returning from injury, but they've lost the winger in Isaac Thompson. And at the Dolphins, Ray Stone is starting at prop. Presumably he actually plays lock. Herman Ese goes to the bench. Still a big watch on Hosking. So most popular purchase last week, but they've got Liam Martin, and his try he scored. He's in great try-scoring form. Liam Martin and Garner are lurking on that extended bench. Still no mail yet on whether they come in and who they come in for, whether Hosking stays starting, whether he goes to the bench, whether he drops out of the 17 altogether.
Well, after the first game he played for the Panthers a couple of weeks ago, I rushed him in the next week. I just saw what I liked, and I thought that's going to stay. I'm pretty confident that that's his spot now, unless something really goes wrong for him, which it doesn't look like it's going to, because it looks like Nath loves him. They've got a really good combination. There's a lot of different ways the team could move around. Liam Martin could come to prop. Eisenhuth could drop off to the bench. You could have, Garner going to the left side with Sorensen dropping out and Hosking to the right with Sorensen's to spell. There's so many different options. I really don't think that Hosking's going to be the casualty of any of this, though. I could be wrong. It could be 50, 60 minutes for him. He might get a bit of a rest because maybe they don't want to burn him out. However, I still think he's an option to keep in your side. And you could probably still bring him in. He's gone up a bit, but I like him. Just
on eye test, I think he stays in there. And I'm thinking minimum 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's worst case scenario. So I think you can safely hold and probably safely play him this week. They play relatively late on the Saturday at 5:30 p.m.
Yeah, so if something does happen there where he does drop out or whatever, there's probably ways we can cover it with our second rowers.
And hopefully we'll get the 24-hour cuts just beforehand, so we will know 24 hours before.
Yeah, so those that have Preston in their side probably have him on your reserves, and then if you need to swap it out, you can bring him on, and hopefully you've got, say, someone else there that you could actually plug as your reserve.
Yep. Nice call. Viliami Kikau went down. Your man, who your team's named after.
Been rough at training, hasn't it? They're going hard on him.
Yeah, exactly. He got the concussion and now a ruptured pec, so that's long term.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Can't wait to see him get back. Do you know how long those things are?
Oh, I haven't seen they're usually a long time, aren't they?
Yeah, that's going to really hurt.
It depends on the grade.
He's a big attacking weapon. I heard Reid Marnie just talking the other night on 360 and sort of saying, preferencing about sort of getting him good ball, Birdo good ball and stuff. And I thought, really looking to use him well. And now that he's gone, that really sucks. But I guess that's extra good for Preston, even though it looked like he was locked down one of the sides anyway. But seems like he's a certainty.
Let's do now my favourite segment of the show, Guilty Pleasure. Whoa. Absolute bangers. How good's that? A bit of death metal on the show. Oh, no, that's not death metal.
We don't know our genres. We're really out of touch these days, aren't we?
It's more like Prodigy, rave, kind of 90s rave music, I reckon. Anyway, Guilty Pleasure. My guilty pleasure is Sonny Luke, because at the start of the season, I made a pretty big call where I had some mail that he was going to play 50 to 60 minutes. And then that basically hasn't happened over the start of the season because he had a tough pre-season to start with. Then he's had a couple of head knocks. It just hasn't worked out for him. But now it looks like he's back to that sort of, or he's in the mid-50s for minutes, which is where I predicted at the start of the season. And thankfully, those predictions are finally coming true after I copped it a fair bit about that. So he's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful one. I like that. I guess because he's coming off the bench and we haven't got a great indication of true what his minutes are. I think it is probably going to be at least 40 to 50. So in that time, he can really open up a can of worms and crack one out. So I like that. My guilty pleasure is probably the downgrade option this week. I'm looking at three options. Gerald Skelton, thinking that he could be the next man up after. I thought he was going to get that spot over Braden Burns. Yeah. He's a 200k guy. I watched his highlights. Yeah. Looks great.
Yeah.
Also looked at Tom Jenkins for the Panthers. I just thought with the rotation of, To'o going out at some stage,
For Origin,
potentially even Crichton if he gets a call up as well. We'll bring him in the side. He's a centre and a winger. He's a gun too. I watched his junior highlights.
He was good in the trials. In the trials, he was sensational.
Red hot.
Yeah.
But Jack Howarth, I even watched his highlights again. He's named on the extended bench.
Yeah.
I'm just desperately hoping if I bring him in, he gets a go and they just give Liero a bit of a spell for a bit because, geez, he looks like... when he was like a couple of years ago, he was playing against basically looked like he was playing against under-8s. They were all like that much taller than him, and he was just shorter than him. He was just.
He looks like a beast, and I don't know what's happened to him down in Melbourne because we were expecting him to come through.
They're paying him $500K.
Yeah, they're paying him a lot of money. I was expecting him to debut maybe a year or 2 years ago. Hasn't happened. I don't know what is happening down there, and he's playing a lot in the Queensland Cup.
Weird gut feeling.
I don't know what's going on.
I've got a weird gut feeling that they're gonna bring him in this week. I do like with a big name like that and a big player that's been looming. They wouldn't name him. They'd sort of just put him there and then slot him in.
Yeah.
This is only a weird gut feeling. There's no reason for that because they're not going to drop Katoa out. But I'd love to see it happen.
I don't mind it. But I think he will play around.
Probably going to be enough for the year.
He will play 13 though, so it could be nice buy coverage for then. So I don't hate that play at all. And we're kind of eating into the next segment because this is Cheapie of the Week. Right, we've spoken a fair bit about cheapies already, so I'm not going to labour on this too much.
Yep.
Sonny Luke, you already own and I'm buying, so we're positive on him. Jared Croker. So the issue with him is that he's got here. I mean, his goal kicking was sensational and his defence was sensational over the weekend. And I don't think it's any coincidence that the Raiders got that amazing win when Croker came back into
good for morale for the team.
I think so, and I think that means that his job security is pretty good, even though they've got Savage who could come in a fullback and then Chris goes back to centre. And theoretically, Croker could drop out of the team pretty easily.
I've got the bye next week. I've sort of said on one of the other poddies earlier in the week that I just watched the post-conference with Ricky and with Croker sitting right next to him, and he said, we want to get into his 300th game. He's only 7 away from that. There's a lot of rounds. I get the feeling that it's going to be sporadic throughout the year when they need him, not a long run.
Right.
Yeah, that's just what I sort of read into what I took from Ricky's mind, trying to channel what was going on there, get his poker face and all that. But I don't mind him as an option because he does kick the goal. So when you are playing him, you're probably going to get a decent score. I think like a 40 or something compared to some of the other guys I'm looking to bring in, like Gerard Skelton or something like that, who might not play. So I just can't afford him. He's just a bit out of my price range, $270K. Yeah,
270 is a little bit of an awkward price. The base is good with the goal kicking, but there are question marks over job security. The big thing is he's got the bye next week. Yeah. So you really want to wait.
Not that big of a deal.
You need to wait 2 weeks before you bring in.
And he's not going up in price, so you can wait.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can still get around people getting on.
We're all desperate for that cheapie. Exactly. The fun stuff.
And speaking of this guy, I haven't even brought up yet. If you are desperate for a cheapie, I reckon the standout guy could be Toby Couchman from the Dragons.
Yeah.
Only back row, unfortunately. I was hoping he'd have a little bit of dual flexibility going on. Only back row, but eye test wise, he looks sensational.
Yeah, I don't mind that one. I was looking at that earlier in the week, so I was thinking, potentially I could downgrade Utakamano, but I think for me, I'd rather have that third front rower that I can use when I need to in emergency. Yep. So I've got Franklin Pele as my fourth, who's out injured. Yeah. So for me, I think I can take a hit in the centre wingers and just run 2 backup guys and possibly that enough for a guy on opportunity.
Fair enough. Trent Copeland not here. We're hoping to get him on next week. Let's do Cope's captains. Right, let's cut to the chase here. Who's not captaining Cleary this week? Because you look at the stats, this is for the top 10% of owners. He is getting captained by 70% of Supercoaches.
And there'd be a lot of people too that haven't... I don't like my captaining until the last minute to throw off my head-to-heads. So, I'll be there, my head-to-heads, I'll be captaining Cleary. Okay. However, the VCs that some other people have do scare me. I think with... Nico Hynes, there'll be some temptation to go him because of people know how big he can score. The matchup's a lot harder. I just think going against Cleary this week is crazy. I went against him last week and it burnt me, and I think it's going to be another big one.
Hynes is a definite VC option, although he's not particularly high on the list.
Can't VC him if you're going to captain Cleary, though. Just
exactly.
You know,
Very good point. That's why Harry Grant's at 22%. Got the Sea Eagles on Friday night. It's at 4 Pines Park. I know the Sea Eagles they're leaking points and not going that well, but they do tend to fire up at 4 Pines.
Yeah, his scores are hard to loop too, because I feel like he's sort of usually capped it, like if he's going to go off about 130, 120 or something, like if he's going a real big score, which is not really loopable, I don't think. I think you want a bit bigger than that. So I think if you've got a good feeling about him some weeks, he's more of a captain option. Not this week, though, just with Cleary as the standout.
In that same game, we've got Turbo at 11%. Now, it's a tough matchup against Storm.
Yeah.
But 4 Pines Park, he averages something like 85 over his career. That's taking into account old scoring systems that didn't suit attacking play. So you add that in and you're looking at an average of basically 100 at that ground. I know it's a tough matchup, but he's a definite VC for me.
Will mentioned his highest score he's ever scored in 9 matches against the Storm is 91, and in 2021, which was the big attacking year where I won, yes. No, there was a lot of points on there to be scored. He only scored 81 against them in the one game that he played them.
Right, that's a good start.
Yeah, so it's interesting to know. However, the thing I like about it, with that low score last week, I think he was, and his poor performance, not so much his low score on SuperCoach, he's more, worried about his involvement. I think if he is right to go, he could really be up for this match and want to make up for last week.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So he's locked in as my VC, and then I'm going with the crowd with Cleary as C. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'll probably go VC.
Oh, you don't want to tell your head-to-head opponents.
Oh, this week it's just pretty black and white. I'll probably VC either Turbo or Valentine Holmes against the Warriors. But they're both, I don't think, are going to be loopable enough for me unless Turbo does the job. So I think I'm going to end up just with my Cleary captain.
Right, questions till the end of the show. I'm on YouTube now. Who is better to keep, Taruva or Khan Pereira? For me, it's Taruva. Khan Pereira's got the attacking upside, but not the base.
Yeah, he hasn't really scored any tries either.
Khan Pereira. Taruva, yeah. So he had that one game where he scored 2 tries, but they didn't have line breaks with him, so he didn't even get that for the score. But I like his work rate. He takes so many hit-ups.
He wasn't as busy last week, I don't think. But,
that was, I feel, because the Panthers were just absolutely on fire, and he didn't need to. But in the tight clashes, he does tend to take almost 20 hit-ups.
Yeah.
What have we got here? Who is the homeless guy in Ralph Lauren?
I like that.
Should we zing that?
It's good.
Should we zing?
It's good.
We can zing that. Not much coming through. Turbo to play the full 80? You would assume so. I mean, if he's fit.
That's Singer of the Week too. Pay it.
Yeah, pay it early. Pay it out early. Yeah. Thoughts on Dunster? Is it too late for Ford? I think it is too late for Jackson Ford.
Yeah, another one that slipped away from me. I was sort of like had to. I didn't have that many spots. It was either I had Howarth for me or him. And, not Howarth, sorry. What's his face from Penrith? Hosking.
Yeah.
So I thought I probably wouldn't be able to fit both in. But yeah, I think it is a little bit too late. He scored well last week with the try. The tries aren't there. He's sort of more that 40. So it's a bit of a, do you play him each week? Do you not? Is the cash gen going to get that much better? I don't think he's going to get too much more. So yeah, probably missed the boat on that one.
We'll finish with a final zinger from Steve Carter saying, put a gold chain on Timmy and call him the godfather of the SuperCoach Mafia.
Is that from the Panthers or?
I kind of like that one.
Steve Carter, Panthers? Go.
And bring in Crossland or Schuster. What are your thoughts on Crossland?
Yeah, I don't really like Crossland just because he's only available at half or 5'8". Yeah. I guess Schuster is available at 5'8" and second row, so you can sort of drown him out there. I just think the sooner the better that we get 2-gun 5'8", 2-gun halfbacks. That's ultimate for both head-to-head and overall players.
Yep, I agree. Thanks to Tim for today. We'll catch you for the Teams podcast next week at 5 p.m. Good luck on the weekend. We'll see you then.